there was a lot of Christians in January 25 revolution in the Tahrir Square. And there were also thousands of them, pure Christians, and then joined by some Muslims in front of the Maspero, asking for that we are not divided, we are one nation. How do you see this? Do you see the Coptic all of a sudden become real Egyptians? Or they were always real Egyptians, but they were so suppressed? Or all of a sudden they are asking for their own Christian rights and forgetting the Egyptian rights? I have so many scenarios and I'm not sure which one is right.
Well, it's certainly something that requires study, but of course the Copts were always real Egyptians, and they have always been real Egyptians. The question was, why weren't they really so open in participating in the political life? And that was something I myself wrote about it many times, that Copts should participate much more and get more involved in political life, but it wasn't happening. And even in this revolution, the first day, as we remember, there was some in the church leadership that said, no, it's better not to go out because we don't know who's going to go out. And luckily, thank God, the youth really went out on the first day and went even more on Friday after that. And they held prayers, and they were singing hymns and everything. So thank God and there were pictures and videos showing that. Otherwise, we would be in terrible shape that we did not participate in this. So definitely, the Copts were as Egyptians as anybody, as caring about the country that they loved as anybody else, and many actually died. And we had names of Copts who died among the martyrs of the whole revolution. So I'm glad that this happened. I'm glad that some even Egyptian clergy that were shown in Tahrir Square, and until now they show that video. I'm not sure who actually was there. One of the fathers was there, and a sheikh was next to him, and they show this picture all the time. So I'm glad that somebody did go, and they held the cross, and somebody was holding the Quran. Now, for the demonstration in Maspero, I think what happened is, obviously, and I want to say this in Arabic, دي من بركات الثورة. يعني the fact that the Copts went after they got used now that you can go to a square, not just the church, you can go in open area and you can demonstrate and you can sleep over for several days until you achieve something. They have seen this happening. And it had the top person in the country fall down because of that. So that, of course, helped them. And I'm glad that they did this. So that they went to the TV station, they chose that. I'm not sure again why, but it is good because they thought they are not covering the reality of the situation in the street, and they were saying stuff that were not true. So and they were raising crosses and pictures of Jesus Christ, and I also seen some having the flag. What I like to actually tell the youth that I would like to see every time you raise this. You raise the cross, please have the flag around it. Please have the flag next to the cross. Make sure that you are demonstrating on the basis of being Egyptian, not a sectarian look at it. This is what the revolution is all about. And we don't want to fall back and say we only have the identity of being Christians. We are Christian Egyptians. So we want to make sure that the identity of being Egyptian, which is the one identified us and unite us with many Muslims who support the same thing we support for, which is a civil society. If you only hold the cross and other religious symbols, then you are really not welcoming your friends and your relatives and brothers who are Muslims, who won't support you.
Yeah, so well, I think the social political image should be emphasized. Not only the religious image.
Yes.
And the social political means that we are Egyptians, we are all Egyptians.
Yes.
And that is a basic thing.
Right.
And the Copts are real Egyptians. They have been all their lives real Egyptians. And they hold so much love for their land.
Yeah.
It's their land.
Yeah.
So they love it so much. And I don't think the idea of just going for the cross and the Bible, and that's not the right thing to do, because we are Egyptians and we hold this kind of love to our land, Egypt, and it's in everyone's heart.
But while you are saying this, there are many Christian writers, especially in America. They looked at what happened to Helwan, Atfih, the Seoul village, and the wiping out of a whole church, and what happened in Muqattam, and they took it, and they basically said there is no change. The Mubarak or no Mubarak, Christians are being wiped out. Mubarak or no Mubarak, we are not getting our rights. And I wonder, how do you see this? Do you see it as a setback, or that the change will take long? Or should we have continued demonstrating more? Does the demonstration make a difference anyway? I mean, it's really becoming a thing that keeps happening, that Christians are being killed, some churches are being wiped out. Especially after the revolution, we hoped to have a difference. Are we asking for a difference so soon? Maybe that's real needs will take years. I wonder how do you see these things?
Well, in my opinion, change takes time, and change is also related to education. People need to be educated. That we are all one in this country.
Yes.
We are all Egyptians. We are not enemies. We are not seeking something against our land. So it needs a lot of education. And if you notice, and I feel I have to say that the areas where you find these problems happening, this is where people are not really well educated. And they need a lot of education, and we need to go out and meet with the other people in the society, because when we are just inside the churches, they had very many wrong ideas about us. They think we are inside the churches plotting against the rest of the society, and have our own plans and our own weapons, and which things are not there. This is not true. And they think that we were using sorcery or magic or things that are not true. Yes. So we got to get to be known by others, because you see, one of the philosophers said, "Speak that I can see you." So if we don't speak and mix and mingle with others, how are we going to be seen? We have to speak so that they will find that these are just people like us, and there's nothing wrong with them. They are peace-loving, they are kind, they're decent, they can mix and mingle with us, and then the barriers will disappear. But if we just stay within our own churches and not mix and mingle with the rest of the society, we will be always feared on wrong basis.
Francois, how do you see the problems happening?
I certainly echo what Father Antonius is saying. It definitely is a question of education to a large degree, and that's why I remember started to write against the Mubarak regime after I went to visit Egypt in 1998, and I hadn't been before that for almost 14 years. When I visited in 98, I was shocked to see the deterioration in the way people speak, in the way people think, in everything else. I mean, there was some roads are better, but I looked at the people, and I was really, and I saw two separate societies. The Copts were on one side doing their own things, going together on trips, and they stopped really going anything with Muslims. And I was shocked because I wasn't used to that when I was growing up. It wasn't like that. Yes. And I felt something was terribly wrong, and I started to feel that the government is responsible, whether direct or not direct, by the education that they are failing to provide. They are raising a generation that is very ignorant of themselves and of others and of everything in the world. They were not really educated. People had to give private lessons for every subject, and no other system in the world was doing that. So I felt that the government was responsible, not just Al-Ikhwan or Al-Islam. It is the government that did not provide proper education. And people with proper education, they will behave better.
I mean, speaking about education, I'm told that the Coptic era is completely omitted from any school educational courses. I mean, there is the Roman Empire, there's the Greek Empire, there is the Arabic Empire, but there is nothing in between.
Yeah, it was never there. It was never there, actually.
And I mean, if you look here, there is a Coptic era being addressed and studied and educated here. But our own country, our own brothers are learning that we don't have any history.
Yeah, the strange thing is you go after the decline of the ancient Egyptian civilization and you go directly to the Hellenic, the Alexander, and then you go to the Roman. Right. But these were the occupiers. So you are studying the history of the occupier of your country, not the people of the country. And this is how, because it was taken mainly from the Western way of looking at history. When they started to translate, so that's how the West does it. But we as Egyptians, we should say, okay, this is the Coptic era, where we were occupied, yes, by the Greek and then by the Roman, but we were Copts at the time.
Yeah, you know, I remember one of the fathers here in USA who is not Coptic, and he was talking about the Greek fathers, yes. And then he starts to talk about Saint Athanasius and Saint Cyril the Great. And then I said, he corrected himself, because he said, I was told, all the time I thought that they were Greek, but then I found out that they were just speaking Greek language, but they were Egyptians.
Egyptian to the bone.
Yes, exactly. So, and now, as you said, all the universities here, many universities have a department for Coptology, studying the Coptic era and Coptic civilization. And I think it's about time to recognize this in our own homeland.
And I think that will make a difference in 6 and 8 years old kids who are growing, knowing we don't have any roots or no civilization. They will never come to really befriending a Mina or a George, because they don't know. But if they know that this kid has a history of his grandfathers, things when he becomes 25, he will say, yeah, my friend George, my friend Mina, and so on.
And Francois said, this is how we grew up.
Yeah.
We didn't have these things except later in the 70s and 80s, and then it started to escalate more and more. And I remember after the accident, the bombing of the Church of the Two Saints, a young girl came out and she said, why are they doing this to us? Yeah. We never heard them, we never heard them. Yes. I want to see them dealing with us in a nice, decent, kind way. Why they do this to us and we never do something bad to them? And the question is very difficult to answer from our side. But yet, if we pay attention and raise our voices and keep suggesting, giving a solution to the problem is better than just complaining about it. So maybe we should participate in finding a solution on the broader base of the Egyptian people in general.
Francois, let me ask you a sensitive question. How do you see the Muslim Brotherhood in this? And I'll tell you where the confusion is coming. You hear from, they are in control of everything, and this revolution is based on their shoulders, and they are the ones who's taking care of everything, and they are the ones who took care of the last election. They are infiltrating the army. They are basically in control, and the past era is much better than what we are in. And then you see a completely liberal idea that, no, they are very weak, they are nothing, they are not in control, they are... Can you balance this?
Probably the truth is somewhere in between. I think these two are two extreme positions. No, the brotherhoods are not in control. They are not the one who started the revolution. They themselves even are not saying that. Maybe some of them were trying to get credit for it, but by and large, they said it on TV that they were not. In fact, they did as the same thing as the Coptic Church did. Before the first day, they said to their people, don't go out. We are not going out as a Muslim Brotherhood to participate in January 25th. Later on Friday, 28th, they did participate, and the Copts. So they were not really prepared for it. They did not start it, and their people were not in the first day in any other than in individuals, as the Copts were as individuals. The way it is now, I know a lot of people are scared. I get a lot of emails and calls and people asking that similar question. They say we are afraid, especially with the result of the latest thing about the Dastur, the constitution, that it was billed as if it is a victory for the Muslim Brotherhood. Correct. And also the National Party. It really is not. If you look at, I expected it to be like that, not that high. I expected to be, most of the result will be yes. For the simple fact that most Egyptians, the people in the villages, the people not in Cairo, they, and two reasons. First, they think that saying yes to the government is still a good thing. This is from the government, it's coming from us, so I better say yes.
Again, education.
Yeah, again, education.
Actually, let me interrupt you just for the audience, just for them to know what we're talking about. We're talking about the recent voting that really Egypt have never seen before. 18 million and plus went to vote out of their own freedom. No falsification of their votes. 14 million plus said yes, and 4 million said no, which makes it 77% said yes, and the rest were no. And the yes meaning changes in a couple of items from the constitution, but not changing the whole constitution. And what Francois started to mention, which I would like him to continue giving us his view of, again, it's perceived that yes means brotherhood won.
Yeah.
May I say something?
Sure,
I don't want to interrupt, but
no.
you said that nothing happened in this voting, but I was listening to Naguib Rufail, to Nabil Gobrail today, and he said that there were so many violations in so many places, and they're trying to take this to the court because they have videos to prove that there were still the same things happening, which is a really sad thing to hear about. I just heard it today.
This is true. I've seen a video like that. It came to me and I sent it around by email. There was a video showing very similar to the one we saw after the election, the last election when Mubarak was there. And you might have seen that there was a guy sitting inside and he keeps doing one page after the other and he's filling the yes part. And then he flip it
The
and
person in charge of the vote?
One person there. So he's like within 5 minutes, he's doing like 200 pages saying yes, yes, yes. So yeah, so that's why the percentage I think is too high. I think if it wasn't, and remember this is the same Hizb al-Watani, the National Party, they are still there. And they are the only people with the Muslim Brotherhood who agreed to say, and they were saying we're going to say yes.
So this is where my question again back to you. There is a growing view that the Muslim Brotherhood will be and they are in control because now they got what they hoped for, the yes.
Yeah, but let us remember, because from even before yes or no, I was saying to people who were worried about this, is that it's not going to be that much of a difference. If you say yes or no, you are saying yes or no to only 7 or 8 articles that really don't do anything as far as Coptic or Christians. They are not the second article, they are not anything. They are organizing the way you're going to open the election for people to participate in. They are organizing, limiting the period of the president to 2 terms of 4 years each. So they are not really anything. The only thing is, and that's why the Muslim Brotherhood wanted it, is that they wanted to get this over so that we can start to talk about the election for the parliament, for the assembly. And that's what they want to do so that they can get a lot of people in. And I expect them to be able to win a good percentage of the seats in the parliament, much more than before, of course. But even that doesn't scare me, because they are there, they present certain part. I hope that they take, let's say, 30%. Even if they take 40%, they are still not the majority. A lot of Muslims are in the middle. They are moderate. and then the Copts and the liberals and the left, and all of these people are other powers. But we do have to work hard. It's not going to be happening if we sit at home and cry about it.
Yes.
We have to go on the street and participate, as Abuna is saying, and not just feel that, oh my God, we are victims, the blacks in this country, as Abuna said, didn't stay home and cry. They went out in the streets, they were being killed, and they took years until they got the rights.
And I want to say something concerning this point,
Yes.
because sometimes people think that we are talking about one side only. We want to use the imagery of Moses on the mountain praying and Joshua down there having the fight. And the two work together. We'll never do it without having the two things together. And we always think this way. It's good to speak, good to stand up for your rights and ask to be equal in this country, and yet we'll never cease to pray and ask God that His hand will be in everything that we're doing.
We covered so many topics in a short time, but I wonder if you have any remaining thoughts that we have not covered in this half hour. Anything that was in your mind that you want to mention?
I want to mention something spiritual, if you allow me.
Yes, please.
I have two verses. There are so many, but I'm just going to use two verses, if you allow me.
Sure.
And then we'll leave the political, social things for Francois. And in Isaiah 49, it says here, "But Zion said, the Lord forsook me, and the Lord forgot me." And the Zion is a symbol of the church. So we sometimes think that we have been forsaken or God forgot us. But seeing God's hand in the events, or actually this is God's hand that's moving everything, we will be assured by what He answered here. God answers, says, He answers with a question. He says, "Will a woman forget her child so as not to have mercy on the offspring of her womb?" The question is, of course, understood that a woman never do that, okay? But He says something very interesting. He says, "But even if a woman should forget these things, nevertheless, I shall not forget you." And it's very important to keep this in mind. He will never forget us. No matter what happens, God is not forsaking us. God is not forsaking His people, and God is not forgetting us. The second verse, it's from Daniel, when he was talking to the king, and he says to him, "Until you know that the Most High rules over the kingdom of men and will give it to whomever He will." So we know that God is in control, and He is the one who directs everything. And no matter what happens, things never get out of His hand. He is the Pantocrator.
And actually, I would like to take this nice, very, very good spiritual idea and apply it to what's happening by actually asking the youth to not to use the word fear at all, but saying like, I'm afraid that the Muslim Brotherhood are going to take over. I'm afraid. Christians don't know fear. The word fear was never part of our vocabulary. And if you know the history of the Copts in Egypt, you know even let's say the worst case scenario. Let's say the Muslim Brotherhood became the majority in the assembly in the next 4 years or 5 years. This is not worse than many other periods that the Copts survived in history, and we came through it, and we are now very strong at church. So let's throw the fear out and really get into the act of it. Let's do our best. Let's with God's help. If we don't succeed the first time, we're going to succeed in the long term. So this revolution is a good thing. We need to build a new generation by paying attention to education and by being very active in society and not being so afraid as we have been in the past.
Very well said. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Coptic Blood. And until next time, have a good time. Thank you.